So we're getting close. We're just seconds away from going live simultaneously across multiple platforms and multiple channels. It's exciting, high-tech stuff going on. We're just seconds away. Waiting for the go. It's coming any second. All right, for our audience on Instagram, we are here at Evolution Pro Bike Shop with Scott Wilson. And now we are live. We are so excited to be here. Thank you everybody for tuning in. To anybody who tried to tune in on Wednesday afternoon, yes, we were affected by that mass Facebook outage. So we have rescheduled for now. So hopefully you've rescheduled to be here and you're joining us. Please chime in if you are. So today we're here with Scott Wilson from Evolution Pro Bike Shop, and we're very excited because today we're going to be talking about all kinds of custom bikes, the variations and the versatility of them. We're going to go over terrain options and right down to racing and everything in between. So Scott, thank you for being here.
Sure.
And I know you've been doing this for a very long time, over 30 years. Can you just give us a little bit of your history of your bike history?
Sure. As far as the bike shop history, I guess we got our formal start back in 1995, and here we are now. Doesn't seem that long, but it's been almost 30 years. So, in that space of time, we've done everything from regular bikes, kids' bikes, you name it. And, I guess over the last 20 plus years, we've been pretty much solely dedicated to nothing but semi-custom and custom bikes. So that's pretty much what we do.
Great. Well, we're going to get into the how and the why of that in a little bit. But first, we're in Buckingham, Pennsylvania, is where Scott's shop is, which is basically the heart of Bucks County. Now, as far as riding bikes go, people love it here. And I'm going to have you expound on why and the various terrains that you can find here to ride as a bicyclist.
Sure. We've pretty much got everything here in Bucks County, as well as our neighboring counties, whether it be Montgomery County, Hopewell right across the river, and really everything up and down the river on the Pennsylvania side as well as the New Jersey side. There's constant variety here. It doesn't matter if you're a road bike rider and that's all that you do is ride on the pavement. We have a constant variety. We have a huge amount of dirt roads. We've got a huge amount of gravel roads that largely go unexplored by riders, but they're there. Likewise, we've got tons of mountain bike terrain around here as well. We do live in a relatively populated area, but the mountain biking is kind of tucked away in smaller areas that, maybe you have to drive your car to get there. But even so, we've got great mountain biking. So, again, this whole area, particularly on the road and gravel and dirt roads, things like that, I haven't found many areas that'll touch it. And so in that way, we're very lucky. We're blessed to have this kind of terrain that is so readily accessible to us.
Absolutely, and I completely agree. I grew up here in Bucks County and left in my 20s, and it was when I came back that I really appreciated what was around us and the beauty, not only the historical buildings, but also the open space that we have here with the farms and the conservatory that saves our spaces so that they do stay open and clean. So if I am a rider and I have taken my bike out half a dozen times over the course of the year, I've done the towpath, I've done a couple of road rides, and then there's you who goes hours, probably a few times a week. At what point between us is it that I would or someone would get into being at the point of getting a custom bike?
Oh, you could be at any point. It doesn't matter how much time you spend on a bike. People have a desire to have nice things. And there's no doubt, if you're going to build a custom bike for yourself, it's a nice thing. It's certainly a luxury item, not necessarily something you need. It's something you want. And if it's done right, you'll probably want another one. That's just the way it works. And it doesn't matter if you want to build up a road bike or a gravel bike or a mountain bike. If it gets done right the first time, you probably do it again.
And so typically, it's your second bike. So somebody like me, I get into biking and I do it a little while. I realize, okay, it's not so comfortable, but I enjoy doing it, except for the comfort level. That's kind of where I'm at to get the custom bike and
Sure.
take the next step so that I can be on it for miles on end.
Yeah, and that comes down to, if you're having a bike, even if you were just buying a bike, let alone having a bike built for you, having a bike built for you, it's like having a suit made. It should be done right. It should be not necessarily just close. It should be just right. And it can be. And really having a bike built, and this is true with any bike, and having your existing bike modified or whatever, it should come down to comfort. Making a person, any person, regardless of the amount of time they spend in the saddle, comfortable on their bike, that's most important. Because through that comfort, if I can make a person comfortable, which I probably can, you'll want to ride your bike more. And that's really the whole key to this. I mean, not only are you, if you're spending thousands of dollars on a bike, well, ideally, yeah, you'd like to spend more time on it. But if you're not comfortable, you'll find ways not to, and you'll find other things to do with your time. So comfort's always going to come first, regardless of what the layout of the bike is. If it's a road bike, good catch. If it's a road bike, a gravel bike or cyclocross bike, or a mountain bike even. So again, comfort, comfort, comfort. That's what's important.
Okay, so comfort is obviously number one.
Yes.
And with comfort, that means you fit your bike well. And then following that becomes more efficient and you become faster as you ride more?
Speed's a matter of time. Through your comfort, again, if comfort comes number one, efficiency comes through comfort. Power and speed come through them. It's the only way the equation works. And that's the only order that it works. You can't manufacture speed. You got to spend time in the saddle. And that's just the way it goes. Speed's not free. So it's going to take training. It's going to take time. But again, if you're not comfortable, it shouldn't be a torture chamber. There are days in the saddle that, if you're out training and you're training hard for racing or what have you, and you're forcing yourself to do things, you're uncomfortable, some of those things can be slightly different. But again, the overriding theme is comfort, because you're not going to, again, you'll take up something else.
In our other discussions, one of the things I found very interesting about your point of view was how you look at the bike as not only a tool, but also a piece of art.
Yes. Yeah. When I'm on the bike's a tool. I'm not looking at what color the bike is or what color my handlebar tape is. When I'm on it and riding it, I really don't care. I really don't even see it. However, when I'm off my bike, and wherever you display your bike, it might be in your living room. When you look at your bike, when I look at my bike, I appreciate it. It's a piece of art. I appreciate a bicycle's form. I still think it's still one of the most efficient creations, human-powered creations that we've come up with over the last 100 years. So I want my bike to look the way I want it to look. Likewise, any other person has a bike, they want their bike to look exactly the way they want it to look as well. And that could be, saddle color, it could be handlebar tape color, paint job, you name it. But that's important. But yeah, I pretty much separate a bike that way. When I'm on it, I don't care what it looks like, as long as it works. I want it to work the way it was designed to work for what it's supposed to do.
Okay, now let's talk about bikes, frames a little bit. There are 3 different kinds.
More or less, yeah.
Okay, for the most part. We have the mountain, we have the road, and then the in-between would be the cross cycle. Can you explain the differences and touch on that gravel bike too?
Sure. I mean, typically, again, most folks are acquainted with road bikes or road racing bikes, and really any of the variations that go along with road racing bikes. And typically, that's going to be a bike with drop handlebars, curling handlebars, and relatively skinny tires. And that's what most people have either grown up with their Schwinn varsities and all that, all the way up to, road racing bikes. But they really don't vary the way they look that much. You're still talking, for most folks, skinny tires.
With no tread either.
Yeah.
They're smooth.
Most of the time, yeah. I mean, you might have small amounts of tread, but most cases, a road racing bike, skinny tires, high pressures, and they're designed to go fast on pavement. There are people who will take their road bikes almost anywhere, But ideally, yeah, you're riding most of the time on the pavement. Could be smooth pavement, rough pavement, whatever, but that's really what a road bike is designed to do. Past a road bike, that's when you get into, really there's more of a modern niche that called gravel bikes. And gravel bikes, as well as their close cousins, which are cyclocross bikes, they can do more. They're more versatile. So, I mean, if we wheel that out of here, we wheel a cross bike in. So that would be what would be considered a modern cyclocross bike. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Joy of live TV. Forgot to take the finger off the phone. So what we're really looking at is same type of handlebars. The biggest difference is the tires.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, a cyclocross bike as well as a gravel bike, which is very, very similar, other than really, there are small differences in the frame. Not a lot to the naked eye. The biggest difference is definitely tire size. The ability to take a bigger, wider tire with more, well, you've got more choices in tread types. So you're going to see knobbier tires, smoother tires, really depending upon where the person wants to take their bike. But again, the biggest difference, bigger tires with more air in them. They're less prone to flats. They ride smoother than the average road bike tire does, because you're riding at lower pressures and there's more air volume in the tire. That alone, for most people, makes bike more comfortable, makes it more stable, makes a person more comfortable and more relaxed on it across a broader variety of terrain. While Bucks County and our neighboring counties have amazing riding, a lot of our roads are not in the best condition. With that in mind, guys go on their road bikes and they think they're going to kill their road bikes. Flat tires, broken wheels, that kind of thing. A gravel bike or a cyclocross bike, in large part, you don't have to worry about it nearly so much. But you can look at a gravel bike or a cyclocross bike and basically it's a road bike on steroids, because that's pretty much what it is.
So it really could fit anybody. I mean, the various levels of somebody coming into it, most beginners would probably start with this. Yeah. In a lot of cases, person's coming in have a bike built and they describe the type of terrain or how they actually ride a bike. A gravel bike suits more people because it'll do anything, in large part, not specifically perhaps. Maybe you don't want to race every weekend on it, on the road, but realistically, most everything a person does on a road bike, you can do on a gravel bike and do it just as well and probably more comfortably. And of course, if that makes you ride your bike longer or make you want to ride your bike longer, it's a winner. Yep, always down to that comfort. So then the third would be the mountain bike.
Yeah.
Which is just going to have even wider tires.
Yeah.
For the, handle the terrain.
Certainly there are. Okay.
Yay.
This guy. So a current mountain bike, this would be considered a hardtail mountain bike. And all that means is there's no rear suspension on it. They can have a front suspension. They don't have to have a front suspension. But a mountain bike is designed primarily for off-road. Rockier terrain, looser terrain, whether it be muddy, although you shouldn't ride your mountain bike when it's too muddy out. It could be snow, it could be ice. But generally speaking, you're talking about off-road, not pavement. That's what a mountain bike is. Again, in a perfect world, that's what it's designed for.
Okay, so then what if gravel bike is perfect, it's the middle, but what if I want a road bike and a mountain bike? Is there a way that I can get one frame and switch tires out?
To a point. Yeah, you may not have the most specific tool, but you can certainly, most current gravel bikes will take a pretty big tire. I myself, I ride a drop bar, basically my mountain bike is a drop bar bike. So it resembles my cyclocross bike more similarly than it does a true mountain bike, with flat handlebars, wider handlebars. This is built for more severe terrain, whether it be steeper climbs, steeper rocky climbs, steep descents, rocks, roots, drop-offs. That's what a mountain bike does. Me personally, in large part, I'm more comfortable with drop bars because that's what I grew up on.
Okay, so let's talk about being measured in the process of fitting somebody particular to a frame or a bike, so that there is that level of comfort that every biker should acquire.
Sure. I mean, that's really, that takes me dealing with the person directly. It's very difficult for me, at least, to do it off-site. I've got to meet somebody. It's kind of a really, again, for me, there are folks that might differ. My fitting is very much a hands-on process. It has to do with the person's physiology, the way they sit on their current bike, perhaps. There are some cases that a person walks in and they're married to the fit that they've got on a current bike, and they don't want to deviate from that, and that's fine. We can build another bike to suit that. In most cases, I'm going to make some changes based upon what they're used to. 99.5%, I'll make you more comfortable on a bike. And that really, that's something that changes through time. As a person ages, you're going to change. We all change. Your riding frequency may have changed through the years. Like maybe you were doing 400 miles a week on the road. Not many people do that, but maybe you were. And maybe now you're doing 50 miles a week. Physiologically, you're not going to be the same. I don't sit the same on my bike now as I did 30 years ago. I'd like to think I sit better on my bike now, but the point is you change. Through change, your bike ought to change with you. It can't remain static, because if it does remain static, that's just another thing. You're not going to be comfortable. And you'll wonder why. It's because you changed. Your bike didn't change.
So you should be having your bike adjust to you, not you adjust to your bike. That's where the comfort comes in.
Yeah, the bike, if you're going to have a bike built for you, the bike should fit you to a T.
Just like a suit, right?
Exactly.
It's like being a tailored suit. You're looking at not just how long your calf is or your leg is, but how your foot strikes the pedal.
It's everything.
It's everything.
It's a comprehensive, the way a person sits on a bike, everyone is different. You yourself, if you had a twin sister, if I had a twin sister, twin brother, they would not sit on a bike the same as I do or that you do. So everyone's an individual and should be taken as such. And that's the way, that's really the only way in my mind to do it right.
Mm-hmm. So you also mentioned, obviously we all age, we change. You mentioned 30 years. It could just be a few years. Somebody could have an injury or have gained or lost weight.
That's right.
How often would you suggest that somebody get refitted for a bike?
Barring injuries, accidents, that you might have a radical change. Certainly, you ought to get looked at, to make you, to try and optimize your fit on the bike after something like that. Mm-hmm. But for most folks, I don't know, maybe every 5 years. It's probably a good rule of thumb. But again, get through accidents or injuries or things that you're healing from or rehabilitating from, well, then maybe changes have to take place from something like that as well.
Okay, so let's touch on the seat, because the seat, there's all different kinds of seats. You mentioned there you didn't even give me a number because there's so many different styles. So how is it that you decide which seat somebody should have?
Again, that comes down to a lot to their physiology, how a person's built, how much they weigh, how wide their hips are, how often do they ride. It's all that. There's no magic bullet as far as saddles go. There are measuring devices out there that'll measure people's hip bones and sit bones, and that's all great. And they all work to a point. But any tool is no better than the person using it. When it comes to saddles, sometimes it's just an educated guess to get a starting point, and then you go from there.
So somebody gets a seat or a saddle and they ride a few rides, they come back and say, I like this about it, but not this about it. And you can say, okay, now I can give you the second and final seat, or the next one that would be.
It could be 3 or 4 or 5.
Yeah.
It really depends upon, it depends upon a lot of things. Saddle width, saddle length, saddle shape, as well as the saddle's firmness, kind of dictate kind of a range, where that person's going to sit, how a person's going to sit, or whether or not they're going to be comfortable. But it still takes a person sitting on it and riding to really start to figure it out. Again, we can make an educated guess and we'll get close. But if close isn't going to be good enough, which it shouldn't be, it might take a couple tries.
Okay. So we have, one of the things that you also do as a bike shop is you have Evolution Race Team. And that's a group of a dozen and a half or so guys that do all three types. They do the mountain, they do the road, and they do the cyclocross.
Yeah.
So tell me, is there opportunities there for anybody to join, anybody to sponsor?
Should anybody want to sponsor us, you know where to find us. Luckily, you know, we are mainly, there's always opportunity for new people to come in. If they have an interest in racing of any form, by all means. Racing's fun, and I highly recommend for anybody to at least try it, whatever discipline. Most of the guys, as well as girls on my team, most of us are masters. You know, they're older folks. You know, they could be, you know, by and large, anything from 35 years on up. That doesn't make it less competitive. It's just there are more masters racing right now than younger people. There's not a whole lot of younger people coming into the sport, unfortunately, which I'd love to see change. You know, there are local groups. There's a high school mountain bike racing team, which is great. But yeah, you know, back to the sponsorship thing. You know, if anybody wants to start racing, by all means, come in and talk to us. Everyone's welcome.
Fantastic. And then just to elaborate a little bit on the cyclocross. Now, you explained these races to me, and they really intrigued me because there were so many variations in a single race of the terrain and type of surfaces you're on. And it's not a huge commitment as far as blocking off a whole day to go do a race.
Not necessarily, yes. You know, typically, you know, the races are relatively short, basically about an hour. And usually, you know, if you're racing the regional scene, you can pretty much get to a race, most of the races, within an hour to an hour and a half of where you might live. And once you've kind of ironed out and optimized how you actually get to the race and how much time you spend warming up and actually racing, by the time you get home, usually your entire day's not shot. If you happen to have a family and you're racing multiple classes, it might be different, but yeah, typically if you're racing one race, you pretty much figure out at least there might be something left of your day to do something else with, chores, whatever.
So with the cyclocross, we have the terrain on a typical race. You could have snow, you could have ice, you could have gravel, mud,
everything.
all the above.
Yeah, I mean, the cyclocross racing season is pretty much around here. Any more starting basically the end of August, and racing regionally at least pretty much goes through maybe the third week of December. With that in mind, you're going to have a variety of weather types. We could have, you know, in recent years it's been warm, it's been dry, late into the season. This past year, there wasn't a single dry weekend all year. It's been wet, it's been cold. We've had, well, tons of mud, tons of rain, obviously, nothing but wet terrain, slippery terrain. As far as the variety goes, yeah, on a typical course, you know, a cyclocross course is generally a closed course, maybe a couple kilometers in length, and you're going to do it multiple times, basically 2 times, whether it be 45 minutes or an hour. With that in mind, on that course, you should find a variety of terrain. There should be grass, could be dirt, could be grass that turned into mud because it's wet out.
Obstacles you mentioned?
Well, there's usually going to be at least one set of wooden planks on the course that are either, for most folks, you're going to have to get off your bike and run over them and then remount your bike. Some brave souls will bunny hop them. There might also be other technical elements on the course that might be, I don't know, an unrideable climb, or maybe an off-camber section that's just either too difficult to ride, or maybe it's faster to run it. That's part of the allure of cross. It's about getting around a course as seamlessly as possible when you're confronted with different terrain types.
So it's definitely something that appeals to a more general population of bikers because it's short and it's the variety.
You know, compared to maybe the other racing disciplines, like say road racing, even mountain bike racing, I wouldn't say the training demands are all that different. It still takes time. You still have to train. One thing about cross is since it's a relatively short race, you can, if you're a time crunch cyclist, which most of us are, you can compress your training time maybe a little bit more effectively or efficiently than you could if you were purely a road racer. Because if your races are going to be an hour or less, it's all about, well, an hour at pretty much 100%, or 45 minutes at 100%. So you can kind of tailor your training to suit that. You know, it might not involve 5-hour training
The
rides.
endurance, yeah. So, but you as Evolution, your team tackles and has participants in all 3 disciplines.
Yeah, yeah, different parts of the year. We've got different people out there all the time.
Great. So another thing that you guys do here at Evolution is you can help anybody with a service or repair.
Yes.
What type of services do you offer any rider?
Name it. Anything that goes wrong with a bicycle, we can handle it. Anything from flat tires to suspension repairs, wheel builds, wheel repairs, in some cases frame repair. It doesn't really matter what's wrong with your bike, we can fix it.
So as everybody, today's a beautiful day, 66 degrees. Spring feels like it's in the air. We're going to get in our cold spell, but you know, in a couple weeks, a lot of people are going to be pulling those bikes out of their garage. There's going to be a flat. There might be a, you know, brake issue or a chain, or, you know, you might need a component or a part. Bring it here to Scott. He's going to hook you up. So thank you very much, Scott.
My pleasure.
Appreciate you explaining some of this to us and giving us a lesson on bikes. Thank you to everybody that tuned in and is joined us today. We want to thank you, and please do like, comment, and most of all, share this with your friends, your family, and of course, fellow riders. You can visit the shop here. The showroom is located right on 413 in Buckingham and open 5 days a week. All you have to do is check out the website for the hours, the full line of brands and components that Scott carries. And until next time, we'll see you on the trails and roads of Bucks County.
Yeah, I just want to chime in too.
Oh.
Our one viewer on Facebook.
We have a viewer on
yes.
Facebook.
Justin Stevens. He said, "Scott, you rock."
Sweet.
So.
Justin Stevens happened to be the best employee I've ever had.
All right, there you go, guys. All right, thanks for tuning in, everybody.